a country of 500,000 people just held a two-time World Cup winner. And it wasn't luck. Stop for a second. Cape Verde, 10 tiny islands in the middle of the Atlantic, a nation smaller than most cities, playing in their first World Cup ever. And in 8 days, they have now faced Spain and Uruguay, two giants, two of the biggest names in football history. They didn't lose to either of them. Read that back. Most fans expected Cape Verde to be the easy 3 points, the warm-up, the team everyone beats on the way to the knockouts. Most fans were wrong, because tonight in Miami, Cape Verde walked off the pitch with another draw, another point, and a very real chance of reaching the round of 32. But here's the part that makes this story even crazier. There's a detail in how they did it that almost nobody is talking about, a moment that should have buried them and instead set them free. I'll show you exactly when it happened. Stay with me. Let's go back to the start. Cape Verde came into this World Cup as the lowest of expectations, a debutante, a footnote, a name people had to look up on a map. For context, the entire country has fewer people than a single big city neighborhood. They have no superstar domestic league, no giant academy pumping out talent year after year, no history of World Cup nights to lean on, because they had simply never been here before. And here's something most people don't realize about this team. Most of their players didn't grow up on the islands at all. They were born and raised across Europe, children of a scattered island diaspora. Many of them could have chased a call-up from the bigger, richer nations they grew up in. They chose Cape Verde instead. They chose the tiny country their parents and grandparents came from. Think about what that means for a second. This isn't a team that was handed a golden generation. This is a team that was assembled out of pride. Players reaching back across an ocean to represent a nation most of the football world had never taken seriously. That is the spirit that walked onto the pitch tonight. And it matters because you cannot explain what they did with tactics alone. And their first test? Spain, the European champions. Everyone assumed it would be a massacre. It ended 0-0. Cape Verde didn't just survive against Spain, they frustrated them. They defended like their lives depended on it. And they walked away with a point nobody believed was possible. And that result quietly broke records. It led to one of the biggest upset bets in this entire World Cup. People who wrote them off lost a fortune, but one good night can be a fluke. 1 point against a tired favorite. That's what the doubters said. Beat them next game, and the fairy tale is over. So tonight was the real test. Uruguay, two-time world champions, a squad full of talent, managed by one of the most respected minds in the game. On paper, this was where the dream ended. Now, quick question before we go further, and be honest in the comments. Before tonight, could you have found Cape Verde on a map? No shame either way. Drop a yes or a no. I read every single one, and I want to see how many of you knew this team existed a week ago. Okay, back to Miami. The match starts, and Uruguay look like the favorites they are. They push, they probe. Cape Verde sit deep and soak it up exactly like they did against Spain. And then the 21st minute happens. Cape Verde win a free kick 34 yards out, long range, the kind of distance where most teams just floated into the box and hope. Kevin Pina has other ideas. He stands over it. He looks up. 34 yards is not a shooting distance for most players. It's a cross, a hopeful ball into the box. The Uruguay wall knows that. The goalkeeper knows that. Everyone in the stadium expects it floated in. Pina drives it low and hard instead. Straight through a gap in Uruguay's wall, skidding across the surface, past the fingertips of a 40-year-old goalkeeper. The back of the net. Cape Verde's first goal in World Cup history. Let that sink in. The first goal this nation has ever scored at a World Cup, in the first World Cup they've ever played. And it's a 34-yard rocket against a two-time champion. You couldn't script it. The island erupts, the bench erupts. For about 20 minutes, the smallest team in the tournament is beating Uruguay. But this is where the story turns, because giants don't stay down quietly. Right before halftime, it all comes crashing in. The 44th minute, a Cape Verde defender under pressure heads the ball against his own post. The rebound falls and Uruguay pounce. 1-1, and it gets worse. Deep into stoppage time, just before the whistle, Uruguay strike again. 2-1 in the space of 2 minutes. Cape Verde go from leading a World Cup winner to losing to one. Think about how that feels. You're the underdog. You've stunned the world, and then in the blink of an eye, the natural order seems to snap back into place. The giant wakes up. The fairy tale starts to look like it's ending right on schedule. The players walk into that halftime tunnel 1 goal down. Heads dropping. The crowd already writing the obvious headline. Plucky Cape Verde, beaten in the end, like everyone said they would be. This is the moment I promised you at the start. Because what happens next is the whole story. Most teams in that position fold. The momentum is gone. The belief is gone. They lose by 2 or 3, and we all nod and say, well, they gave it a good go. Cape Verde did the opposite. They came out for the second half and refused to accept the script. And then the giant handed them a gift. The 61st minute. Uruguay's goalkeeper, a man with decades of experience, suddenly races out of his goal for no clear reason. It's the kind of moment that makes you grab your head. A wild, inexplicable rush off his line. And Cape Verde have a substitute on the pitch, Helio Varela. He's barely been on a few minutes. The ball drops to him with the goal wide open, one perfect touch to settle it. Then he rolls it into the empty net. 2-2. We've all watched a goalkeeper error ruin a team. Tonight, one set a nation free. Now here's the thing about that goal. It wasn't a fluke of luck. Varela had to be alive to it. He had to have the composure to take a touch instead of panicking. The smallest country in the tournament had a substitute calm enough to finish like that on the biggest stage in the world. That's not luck. That's belief. And from there, Cape Verde didn't just hang on. They went for the win. In stoppage time, they nearly snatched all 3 points, a late chance that could have turned a fairy tale into a miracle. It didn't quite fall, but the message was sent. The final whistle blows, 2-2, and the team that everyone expected to be eliminated by now is still unbeaten at a World Cup. So let me ask you this, and really think about it. 2 giants, Spain and Uruguay, 2 draws, 0 defeats. Is this still a fairy tale, or are Cape Verde actually a good football team that the rest of us underestimated? Tell me what you really think below, because here's what these 2 results have done. Cape Verde now have 2 points in their group, and going into the final game, they have a genuine mathematical path to the round of 32. Win their last match, or in some cases even draw it, and this debutante island nation walks into the knockout stage of a World Cup. Let that sit for a moment. The team nobody could place on a map might still be playing when giants have gone home. And speaking of giants going home, let's talk about the other side of tonight, because it's just as dramatic. Uruguay are in crisis. This is a 2-time World Cup winner, a squad packed with players from the biggest clubs in Europe, and they have now failed to beat Saudi Arabia and Cape Verde in the same tournament. Their 2 goals tonight were their only 2 shots on target. 15 other chances flew wide. This is a team that looks like it has lost its confidence, and maybe something deeper than that. Behind the scenes, there's turmoil that goes deeper than one bad night. Their manager is already set to leave at the end of the tournament, his time with the team ending under a cloud. One of the greatest strikers in their history isn't even in the squad. He stepped away from the national team after a fallout that split the dressing room. And when he offered to come back for this World Cup, the door stayed shut. A team this talented should not be on the edge of elimination, and yet here they are, needing to beat Spain just to have a chance of surviving the group. Picture the 2 benches at full time tonight. One side, a giant walking down the tunnel in silence, cameras following every step, a nation asking what went wrong. The other side, a group of islanders celebrating a point like a trophy. Same score line. 2 completely different worlds. From dark horses to deep disappointment, that's the headline for Uruguay. And it's the perfect mirror to Cape Verde. One nation has almost nothing and is overachieving beyond anyone's dreams. The other has almost everything and is falling apart. Same pitch, same 90 minutes, 2 completely opposite stories. That contrast is what this World Cup keeps giving us. The giants are shaking, the small teams are biting back, and the map of world football is being redrawn in real time, right in front of us. So here's where it stands. Cape Verde, 10 islands, 500,000 people, first World Cup, held Spain, held Uruguay, still unbeaten, 1 game away from the knockouts. If they pull it off, it will be one of the greatest underdog runs the World Cup has ever seen. Here's my final question for you, and I genuinely want your answer. Do Cape Verde make it to the round of 32? Yes or no? Commit to it in the comments right now and let's see who called it when their last game is done. I read every comment, so don't be shy. And if you want to be here when we find out, if you want the stories the big channels skip, the underdogs, the collapses, the drama behind the scoreline, then subscribe. Because this World Cup is far from over, and the next shock is always one match away. Cape Verde weren't supposed to be here. Tell that to Spain. Tell that to Uruguay. The smallest team in the tournament just refused to go home. And if you think Cape Verde's run is shocking, wait until you see what happened to another giant at this World Cup. That video is on your screen right now. Tap it, and let's keep the story going. I'll see you in the next one.